Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Daily Thread. We're so happy to be here. Thank you for joining. And of course, a big thank you to our friends at Sensible Marketing,
Right.
Jeremy, Ron, and Shimmy, the best people in nursing home marketing. As my father nods his head, and you're wondering what does a marketing company do for nursing homes, right?
No, I told you, I know what a marketing company does nursing homes. They market nursing homes.
They make sure that the residents are finding them and through different programs like virtual tours. Listen, they do a very good job, and that's why if you're in the nursing home field, you know about Sensible and you need to reach out to
Right.
Sensible. So that's why you should head to sensiblemarketing.com.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we came on live over here, we were discussing how a new poll shows that Americans do not like Donald Trump, nor do they like Joe Biden. They don't like
Hmm.
any of them. Um, Not shocking. I think that there's been so much drama that has been so not presidential over the last few years when it comes to these candidates that people are just done. They just want to move on.
Well, let me tell you, I have to tell you, I don't mean to promote myself, but I wrote an editorial about it, a long editorial about it this morning,
Yeah.
called Thoughts on Trump. It'll start on the front page in my editorial column in this week's Five Town Jewish Times, which can be accessed, of course, physically through the newspaper or online if you prefer at 5tjt.com. Not that I'm promoting it.
Not that you're promoting it or anything. No,
No,
God
that,
forbid.
no, that's not my kavana. That's not my intent. I'm just saying derech agav. I'm just saying, by the way, just for the purposes of proper context.
Psh,
Uh,
Derek Agav. Psh.
I'm just telling you this. I happen to be, thoughts about Donald Trump. He's being booked today, so to speak, in Miami. I'm talking to you from Palm Beach County, not too far from Mar-a-Lago. I'm not stationed here in Mar-a-Lago, but I'm a few miles away from Trump's home in Palm Beach County, as I mentioned to you. And recently there was a clip I think on Yeshiva World News where Trump was playing golf and he said to some guys that looked like from guys playing golf, and he called out to them, "Hey, you remember I gave you the Golan Heights? Remember
Uh,
that? Remember that video? The Golan Heights is very important, but he doesn't understand how low on the priority it is for the Jewish. He doesn't. I'm saying after all these years, including his daughter's conversion to Judaism and his from son-in-law Jared Kushner, he doesn't understand the dynamics of the Jewish community and how it works. It's very complex. But that's just the Jewish community.
Why would he? I mean, I know he has a from son-in-law, but he himself, for majority of his life, has been very removed from the Jewish community. There's no reason to think that he would know the intricacies of what goes on in our heads and the way we
But
think.
but you would think after 4 years of president, you'd understand and surrounding himself with so many Jews and a lot of from Jews, by the way, who are in advisory capacities. He would understand that no matter what happens, even if he runs against Kamala Harris in 2024, she's going to get 70% of the vote of the Jewish vote. You know, she may not win. She may not win the election if he's the candidate. So there's really a couple of things going on. I think America is going through a very serious transition, a generational transition. Here you have 80-year-old President Joe Biden, who clearly is deteriorating, I think, before our very eyes, in terms of his emotional and mental competence. And you have Trump, and it's not his fault. They're putting him through the ringer for one reason. They're afraid that he's going to win. The Democrats are afraid of Donald Trump, and that's why they are trying everything, indicting him for having high top secret documentation in his home, getting involved in paying off people for not talk. Now they're going to indict him. If this doesn't work, they're going to indict him for trying to dummy up votes in
He
Georgia. For
said he said that every time his plane flies over a blue state, he receives a subpoena.
yeah, listen, you know what? But you can't buy the kind of publicity that he's getting. It's not
I
good.
know.
It's not good for the other. And here you have a guy that entered the race who has no chance of winning. The former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, he has one job in the Republican primaries to try to destroy Trump. And at the same time, he was a Prusty guy. Because he wasn't in politics. He was in show
Yeah.
business. He was in private life. If he was like Joe Biden in the Congress since he was 27 years old, he would conduct himself differently. He never expected to be in politics. He never expected to win the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton. But the fact of the matter is, he won. The fact of it was, he was president, and the president's entitled, not entitled. You could get 8 years. You could be elected twice. But the Democrats are so scared that he's going to win. And, chances are that after 2024, there's going to be a bigger majority of the Republicans in the House of Representatives, and even possibly a majority in the Senate of Republicans. Democrats are finished for a generation, for maybe more
Yeah.
than that. And like I said to you before we went on the air, you're talking about neither is popular. Years ago, Bibi Netanyahu, who was born in Israel, of course, but was educated in the United States of America, he said that if he would run for president of the United States, he would probably win because he's more popular, or at least was at that time more popular. They're also putting him through the ringer in Israel, by the way, trying to get him out
Yeah.
of office.
By the way, I saw a story that was broke by Balaz News. They obtained an exclusive screenshot from a WhatsApp exchange. I'll just read the tweet. It says, Balaz scoop. Yesterday, Israel news outlets revealed that leaked WhatsApp messages from anti-Netanyahu protesters, including former prime ministers Barak and Olmert, show they are funded to overthrow the right-wing government. Balaz News has now obtained an exclusive screenshot of a WhatsApp conversation in English where former PM Ehud Barak confirms the news but claims it will not affect their anti-Netanyahu campaign. Barak also admitted that their motive was not the justice reform, but only to remove Netanyahu from power. So I'll put the screenshot on the screen. It basically goes on. I don't know who the conversation is between, but it says it's with Ehud Barak. The profile picture is Ehud Barak.
Mhm.
And they were asking someone was asking him how this news leaked to the public and how they're being exposed. And he had said that it's just a human mistake. The administrator of the chat allowed an extra person to be on it. And then the person asked, does this hurt our position? That we're not focused on just overthrowing Netanyahu over judicial reform? He said no. And the person then asked again, the fact that they see now that it's not about judicial reform, he said it doesn't matter. So their agenda is to get Netanyahu out of power. But Israeli politics is a totally different beast, one in which I don't want to get into now. I want to get into a different story, and that is last night the Denver Nuggets were crowned the NBA champions, the first time in franchise history that the Denver Nuggets have won a championship. And
Do you
an
know anybody?
interesting.
Do you know anybody that's important to? That the Denver Nuggets are the champions of the NBA. I didn't even know they were still playing. To tell you the truth, I thought the NBA.
Are you serious?
Thought the season ended after what's his name, Julius Randle finished showering after the last game. That was the first round of the playoffs. Did the season end after the Knicks leave?
No. An interesting like sub story over here is the owner of the Nuggets,
Yes.
Stan Kroenke. He is the owner of the Rams. He is the owner of the Avalanche, and the owner of the Nuggets. The Rams, the Avalanche, the Nuggets have all won championships within the last couple of years.
Did he go to
So
Did he go to yeshiva? Which yeshiva did he go to?
you think he's Jewish? Stan Kroenke,
How do you spell it?
Kroenke. I don't know
I
if it's
don't know.
especially,
I
unless
don't
it was
know.
Kronkorovich. Maybe it was Kronkovich.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought that's maybe why you're bringing it up because he went to yeshiva somewhere, So, but yeah. So all his teams won. You saying is that it?
All of his teams won. I think Kroenke is a German name.
Could be. It could be. We'll have to look it up. I'm not going to do it right now because you'll get upset at me if I look
Oh
it up
wait,
now.
wait, wait. Aish.com. Aish.com says
Yeah.
no. This is a different story. This is saying
Um,
that Robert Kraft is Jewish
yeah, we know
and
that.
the owner of the Arthur Blank from the Falcons is also Jewish.
We talked about
Okay.
Robert Kraft. We talked about Robert Kraft last week. I think I mentioned I saw him by United Not Solid Dinner. He spoke there, and
Let me
last
ask
week,
you a question. A guy like Robert Kraft, who knows his Haftorah by heart at this age, how come he
yeah,
never lived life how come never lived life as a from Jew?
Matthew, this is a long conversation. I'm watching the clock, and I have to tell you that I had a guy work for me. I'm not going to say his name. He retired a couple of years ago. He was a salesman for the newspaper. He was a Reform Jew. Okay, he belonged to a Reform temple in Merrick, New York, not too far from the Five Towns. And you know what? He didn't see me on a higher religious level than him. He was a good Reform Jew, and that's all he ever knew his whole life. And he respected the fact that I was an Orthodox Jew. I put tefillin on with him a couple of times, but that was it. Because Reform Jews, most of them anyway, that I know, it's not in their purview. It's not in their daily habit. That's not what they are taught. So they go to temple, they go to services, they drive to services, they sit together with their wives or their children or whoever, and the, and we look at it as not the proper way to live Jewish law halachically. That's how we look at it. They don't they don't sit there thinking to themselves that they're violating anything. This is their
Interesting.
way. You have to open. I'm not saying you have to accept it, but I'm saying you have to open your mind and realize that it exists out there. I sat with this guy for 10 years, and mostly we discussed business. But sometimes when you get on on a conversation about Jewish life and Jewish law. And you're in my building, and Yochanan and Dovi are in the office, and we got along great with him. We were great friends. I went to his son's wedding. You know what? I went to his son's wedding, and it was treif, and he ordered a kosher meal for me. I had an
You
airline meal. I had an airline meal at the wedding. Okay,
do you,
I
but
had it.
so I appreciate the angle that you're coming at with this. So you're saying that they don't a guy like Robert Kraft doesn't view himself as being any less than orthodox because he lives a conservative or reformed life. He sees himself
No,
as
he sees himself as a good Jew on the level of his Jewishness. He doesn't see himself
does he think that orthodox Jewry is something to aspire to, that it's a higher level?
not necessarily. He might respect it at being more committed to a halachic and biblical way of life that he could appreciate. Now, you can go to a museum and see a beautiful painting that you admire. Doesn't mean you're going to go home and paint the same painting. You could admire it, you can respect it, and you could admire it. He doesn't see any kind of, you know. Let's use him as an example. We look at him that he's missing something in his life. Okay, theoretically. Okay, he
Okay.
doesn't he doesn't see it that way. He on the Judaism that he knows, he's a good Jew. We call it a tinek shenishba. He's like he
Hmm.
has like a child's comprehension of what it means to be a yid, what it means to be a Jew in this world created by God. So he respects us, and he respects the Orthodox people that he surrounds himself with. I don't know how he's bringing up his children. His children are adults today. I don't know what's what with his family, but it's just is he doesn't see himself as doing anything wrong. I think that's what you're driving at. There's nothing wrong. He doesn't. We see it as wrong. I don't want to say bad because it's not bad. We see it as wrong, but he doesn't see it that way. You have to understand that. You have to open up. You don't have to accept it now. You have to open up your mind to realize that it exists. That's the important thing.
Very interesting. It's a
Very
good
interesting.
perspective. Speaking of Denver, there was unfortunately after the NBA finals was over, there was 10 people injured in a mass
Oh,
shooting in Denver following the Nuggets win. Um, it says
boy.
9 people
Can
were wounded in a mass shooting early Tuesday in Denver as fans were celebrating the Nuggets' first NBA title. A suspect was taken into custody.
you imagine how many would have been shot if they lost?
By the way, yeah,
What was that about? What were they shooting for?
I don't know.
Speaking of shooting, I sent you a thing about there was shooting this morning in the northern Shomron. I don't know if you saw that or not. I
Yes,
WhatsApped it to you.
let's bring this on. 4 injured in Samaria shooting attack. Man, 30 years old, injured in a shooting attack in Samaria. 3 others who were shot are lightly injured. IDF are searching for these shooters. An Israeli man, about 30 years old, was injured on Tuesday afternoon in a shooting attack near FS Junction in northern Samaria. The victim arrived independently at the Rehan crossing. Mange David Dome and IDF medics provided him with medical treatment and evacuated him to Hill Yafa Medical Center. According to the reports, 3 other Israeli IDF soldiers suffered light injuries in the shooting and were treated by Magen David Adom.
Forget
The
that was a
terrorists
bomb.
who perpetrated the attack succeeded in escaping the scene and fired an IDF vehicle, injuring the 3 soldiers. Very troubling.
It just, unfortunately, this is a consistent type of thing. Um, I don't think there's an answer. Back during the days when you were a little boy, when Ariel Sharon was prime minister, there was a time when terrorism got out of hand, and he sent Israeli forces into every one of the Arab towns. Okay,
Yeah.
for security purposes and to crack down on terrorism. And you know what? George Bush was president in those days, so you were probably about 9 or 10 years old. And George Bush warned Sharon, "Get your troops out of there," because they're saying, they're occupying. Get your troops out of Arab towns. Jews don't belong in Arab towns. And in Bush, it was a big contentious event between Sharon and George W. Bush in those days.
Yeah, well, it says here in the article, whoever made the unfortunate decision to reopen the checkpoint at the entrance to Harmesh put our residents' lives at risk. They are Z-class citizens in their own country. This neglect will not stop with us because the wave of terror is coming from the whole area of northern Samaria. We all pray for the healing of the wounded. The event is still in progress, but we will not let it continue. We demand answers from the government now. Stop giving us the runaround. Stop neglecting us.
You
This is
know,
the Samaria council leader.
right,
Um,
Yossi Dagan, I think it is. But look, that leads us into this week's parsha, believe it or not. Shlach, Moshe Rabbeinu
yeah.
sent the Meraglim in. What did the Meraglim say? I don't want to get too deeply into it because we're running out of time. But the Meraglim said, if you come to a city and there's walls surrounding the city, Nafi, there's walls surrounding the city, that means the people there are weak. If there's no walls, that means they're strong because weak people have to be surrounded by high fences and high brick walls. And a lot of the settlement communities in the Shomron for many, many years, because of this reason, they don't want to be surrounded by walls. They want to have faith in Hashem, that Hashem is going to protect them. I know the mayor, the former mayor of Itamar, for example. I visited him on occasion. I forget his first name. His last name is Goldsmith. He's an American. He's a New Yorker. Moved to Eretz Yisrael, became the mayor of Itamar. It was their shita not to have a wall or a fence around the community. They've got plenty of guns and plenty of security to protect themselves. They're not stupid. But they Dafka didn't want walls because it says in this week's Pasuk Shlach that a city that has walls means people are weak, and this is a problem with the checkpoints. Israel takes the checkpoints down because they want to impart to the Arab population, to the Palestinians, that they can live free like regular conventional people without having to be stopped every mile or two to see who they are, to check their driver's license, to check whether their registration expired, whether they paid their tolls or their meters or something like that, like some people.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
that's what we're dealing with. Hopefully, we can get more of a discussion into the Miraglim and this week's Passion towards the end of the week because I
Yes.
think
Absolutely.
it's a big turning point in the history of Am Yisrael.
It is. It's very applicable as well to to us and how people can't be speaking bad about Eretz Yisrael. We see that. The last story I want to get to is an interesting one via I think this is Aretz Sheva. Yeah,
Yeah.
Aretz Sheva. A child named after a Jewish uncle who was buried as a Muslim. Assimilated Jewish family comes full circle as a grandson of Jewish woman who married a Bedouin is circumcised at Yad La'achim ceremony. Abdul was born and raised in southern Israel's Bedouin community to a Jewish mother by the name of Rina and an Arab father. His young mother was subjected to serious ongoing violence to the point that she decided to escape, leaving behind Abdul, 11, and his 10-year-old brother Musa. The Arab wasn't willing to let his wife go. After a few months, he had a young female relative contact Rina using a pretext to lure her to a nearby Rahat. The woman said she needed to pay Rina back several hundred shekels she'd borrowed from her years earlier. In desperate need of money, Rina jumped at the opportunity and traveled to Rahat, the largest Bedouin town in the Negev. However, on her way from the bus station to the designated meeting place, she was run over by a car being driven at breakneck speed. The driver, not content with striking her once, made a U-turn and ran over again before disappearing into the darkness. As the incident occurred 15 years ago, when security cameras in the part of the country were rare, the police were helpless in solving the crime and the murderer was never caught. Meanwhile,
Okay.
Abdul and Musa, who had been named David and Moshe by their Jewish mother, were suffering from serious violence at the hands of their father and members of his extended family. So I'm sure Yad La'achim here got involved. Yad La'achim, who rescues women and children trapped in Arab villages. The fact that the father belonged to a well-known crime family meant that he didn't value the lives of others. And the fact that the boys were referred to as the sons of the Jews only made things worse. A long story short,
Yeah. It's a
um,
tragic story. But you know, the word, the Arab name Musa is Moshe.
yeah.
Okay, and the
But
Arab name,
a long story short, that these boys, um, he met a Chabad man that changed his life. The young Chabad man was was running a tefillin booth, and he
yeah,
offered David a chance to put on tefillin, and David had no idea what tefillin were, but he took him up on his offer. The two began talking. David shared him the story of his life. Uh, the Chabad man, who's not identified here, I don't think, said, "Oh, if your mother is Jewish, then you're Jewish." So that's when David contacted Yad La'achim. They took his
hmm
details. They met with
hmm
him, and
the escape.
they put him up in a clean, furnished apartment. They signed him a mentor. They met with him twice a week to teach him the basic concept of Judaism. They found him a job. They even found him a shidduch. So this week there was an especially moving closing of the circle. David became a father, and at the bris, he organized with Yad Lachim's help by a mile from Brit Yosef Yitzchak. He named his firstborn Moshe after his brother.
hmm
So he has now a from Jewish son who had a bris.
Wow, quite a story. Like I said, Musa is a very common Arab name. It's Moshe, and Abdullah, by the way, another very common Arab name is Ovadia. The root is Ovadia. So that became Abdullah. And I'm sure you'll find all the other Arab names have their roots in Hebrew somewhere.
Amazing. Okay, well, that's our episode of the Daily
Yes.
Thread today. We discussed a lot of different stories. We'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure to send us an email at thedailythread@meaningfulminute.org. And of course, remember to sign up for the Daily Thread WhatsApp status. Hit the link in the description in the show notes, and you'll have more of the Daily Thread all day long. The news with dignity,
The
without the
news never
bias.
stops.
Yes, we will see you again, Mitzvah Shem, tomorrow. Have a great day.